Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Leadership Void podcast. I'm Enrique with my co-host Vince to bring you the best in our veteran, military, spouse, and first responder community. And Vince will introduce today's guest.
Oh, yeah. Excited to close out this wonderful month of May with Chris Wysong. Guess what? He's a founder of Bucket of Bread LLC from La Crosse, Wisconsin. We're just so happy, Chris, to have you on the show. Tell us first, let's start off. Tell us a little bit about you.
All right. So first of all, thank you for having me here on the show. It's really an honor to be able to talk to you guys and all of the people listening. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. A little bit about me. I'm born in Iowa, little dirt road, grew up there running around in the countryside. I'll connect that a little bit to what I'm doing now in a second here, but mom always pulled me into the kitchen and was like, all right, we're going to have some good fun memories here. But reality was that she was setting me up to, once you get out of the house, you're going to have to be able to do this kind of stuff on your own. So I'm super thankful for that, because she made me pretty comfortable in the kitchen and made it to where I was like the guy in the household that would make the foods and things. And eventually I'd bake things for fundraisers, and that led into what we're doing here. But in between that, I had some military service. So I joined in 1990, signed up as a cook, but they switched that out really quickly. And the next thing you know, I was driving fuel trucks in the Gulf War. So that was a fun time. I then got into a Patriot missile battery stationed in Germany. And when my first enlistment was over, I was like, you know what? Let me take this $20 Mac flight from Dover, Delaware. I'm going to go fly back to Germany. I ended up staying for 5-6 years, working as a civilian, but missed everything about the military. So I was like, you know what? I've had enough time running around, being a 20-something, traveling around Europe and causing trouble. So I decided, hey, let's get back into the reserve program. Became a military technician at their request, started doing some college. By the time 2003 rolled around, I found myself at Fort Benning, Georgia. I had submitted a packet to, at the time it was called BNOC, to become an E6, and then an OCS packet. And I said, whatever comes first is what I'm going to go for, because I got to do something. Let's keep going. And next thing you know, I found myself in some of the worst, best memories ever with OCS and the TAC officers there. But they decided, you know what, let's put a butter bar on you. And yeah, so I did a couple more deployments out that way. And in 2018, I said no more, and let's retire out. Took a reserve retirement, and then a couple years later, a wild dream hit me in the middle of the night, and I said, hey, remember all those things you were doing and putting together stuffs in the kitchen? You could put it in a bucket. So I said, all right, let's put it in a bucket, but we have to use that as a platform to do some good in the world and help people. So Bucket of Bread was born shortly after on paper as an LLC with the state registration process. And so August of 2020, by end of May 2021, I was able to have my first live farmer market type event. And from then on out, I've just been trying to push this thing to grow, because the bigger I can make this, the bigger of an impact for some greater good I can create. So that's the whole mission right now, as far as me in a nutshell and the Bucket of Bread idea.
Oh, I love that trajectory. That's so dynamic, right? You go in, enlisted, you think you, it's always like that, right? You think you're going to do something like that, and then they switch it on you. You end up in interesting, right? Because a cook at home to a battery in Germany, that's different and all in itself. But what's interesting is that we always come back home, right? Always in the recesses of our mind, whether we're far or close, we always come back home, and it's at home where we actually establish real core pillars for our life. So that cooking took you to this a bucket of bread. So tell us about Bucket of Bread.
All right. So what Bucket of Bread is I've created these different blends of certified organic flours, and I put them in these 100% recyclable 1-gallon pail buckets. And when you get them home, you simply mix in 3 cups of lukewarm water, or you can use a stand mixer. That's what I prefer to do just because it's too much easier. But within a few minutes, it's all mixed up and there's nothing dry left. And 2 to 3 hours later, it's finished. You now have over a gallon of dough. It's about 4 pounds. It's just ready to use for breads or pizzas or cinnamon buns, garlic nuts, breadsticks, pretzels, bagels, anything you can imagine using dough for. But the beautiful part about the dough in this bucket is that it will last up to 2 weeks in your refrigerator. So now it's like a meal prep kit for baking. So you just pull it out, grab a handful, throw it on a cookie sheet, and in 15, 20 minutes, you've got a real fresh bread for dinner every night, or whatever you want to make from this bucket. I've got a bunch of different recipes on the website that you can navigate your way through and experiment with or create your own. But whatever you do, there are no preservatives, no fats, there's no oils, no dairies, no eggs, no sugars. It's completely vegan friendly, and it's just got the certified organic ingredients, so just the good stuff. And that is the bucket of bread product. But as the company, the best part about it, though, I have to emphasize, is I've earmarked any profits, at least 10% of those. So taxes, money left over, 10% of that, that's going towards charities that are combating hunger and fighting food insecurity in America. And you can also just donate buckets directly from the website, either on a single purchase or a monthly subscription plan at a discounted rate. And then I take those directly over to a place called the Hunger Task Force of La Crosse, and that gets placed into a food distribution network of the pantries in the area.
Phenomenal, Chris. At first, when you started talking about these gallons of what you're producing and how it comes to fruition in 2 weeks in your kitchen, my mouth was watering. I don't know. We talk about the pretzels, the garlic nuts, everything. I was like, Lord, that's phenomenal. And then you touched our heart when you talked about how you give back to the community. Amazing contribution for food insecurity, because it's suffered all around the world and it doesn't know any color, any creed, any race. So I appreciate everything you're doing there. You did share a little bit how you give back to the community, and also love to know what challenges or lessons learned to start buckets of bread that you would like to share with our audience today.
Okay, so when I first had this, maybe I was a little naive going into it, but I think that's good because I didn't have something to be scared of going in. So uh, show no fear, do it. But I didn't realize how, I guess, difficult it would be to create and get friendly with the Google algorithms and try to really figure out a way to communicate to people I've never seen or talked to say, hey, look at this website. And then even ask further, send it some money so that you'll get a thing back in the mail. So that is the biggest challenge, is how do I expand that voice so that if I do a farmer's market and I'm having an interaction with you on a human to human basis, how do I do that in a website? That's the biggest challenge, and one I've yet to actually cross over into, because I'd love to be able to just have that personal interaction with the other end, but it's really hard to do from a static environment like a website. So that's the challenge, and I'm actually appreciative because you guys with a podcast and being willing to talk to me is one of the ways that might help overcome that hurdle. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to express that to people.
Well, our pleasure to do anything to promote what a veteran is doing in a community that is also giving back, not just for profit, but also to give back. So it's our honor. Now, I don't know, Chris, if you understood, you was talking to two Puerto Ricans, and bread it's basically, that's it. That's the holy grail.
Well, I have set it up. I figure, you know what, I should ship to Puerto Rico, so you're not limited. So feel free to buy a bucket out there in Puerto Rico land.
Well, we're not actually in Puerto Rico, but I tell you what, we'll have it anywhere. It doesn't matter. But
Perfect.
a good landing spot for you, and we'll make sure to push it out to those folks out there so they understand that they could buy it in a bucket, and we love
That's
that.
right.
Another thing that made me reminisce to the bucket concept is, we get care packages while we're in service, and what a way to get to something to someone at a distance than to have them see a bucket of bread show up on their doorstep, which would be phenomenal, right? So you mentioned how you got there. You mentioned what are you doing right now. So let's talk about what the future is holding for a bucket of bread. How does that look?
So right now, there are several pipes, irons in the fire, however you want to say it. But I guess the most fun is as if this goes through. This could be really I'll get cool dad points for this because one is there's a video game supposedly set for publication in 2024, and it's kind of exciting because it's called Get Prepped. So you live a life like the simulated human, and you can get a job at places like the Bucket of Bread Factory, and you have buckets in the game, and there's a drop down list. You can make things, but something happens in the game that causes apocalyptic events to take place, and they have all kinds of scenarios. My logo here, little Bob bucket of bread. My little cartoon character is a robotic animatronic guy. He's roaming the apocalyptic universe there, and you can interact with him. But bucket of bread becomes the primary food source in this land that you have to navigate and survive through. It's called Get Prepped, so you're prepared for the worst. And ironically, there's QR codes strategically placed in this game. It's set to be released on the Steam platform. So you can take out your phone and take a picture of this QR code, whether that's a sticker on a park bench or the back of the bucket as you hold it and look at it, or however they've placed it in there. But it'll bring you to a website and it'll connect the universe of the game to a real world website, which is mine. And you'll be able to order real world buckets and some swag for the game, and maybe influence a whole new generation of people to bake at home and do some things in the kitchen in a fun sort of different way. So that could be some fun, exciting things if that goes according to schedule. And I'm excited to get those cool dad points for that. Another great thing is I'm looking to work with an organization had reached out to me. They're a nonprofit veteran organization who you might be considering to talk to as well, because they're doing great things in the culinary art space. The name of that nonprofit organization is called Let's Chow. So Let's Chow will take a cohort of people, and once they're approved and brought in, that'll get them some certifications and some training and all of that in the culinary arts side of things. So veterans who want to get into that space and then make a living of it. So they'll take them, and then upon graduation, they're given this food truck opportunity where they're given the food truck, and then they're allowed to go out into the whatever state they're in. I know they've done a few of these, but again, it's all nonprofit, and they've given them food trucks to go do great things with. And right now, we're looking at trying to get Bucket of Bread into that space to help it as a tool for the trainings, and also possibly to support some of the food truck needs. And that could be really exciting. So there's some talks for that. But another great organization to go out there and support, Let's Chow .org. And let's see, I'm working with a grant possibility right now. So I had to identify, it was an itemized list, and part of that list has a quote for a price tag for an expert consultant in the consumer packaged goods space, which is another one of those things I didn't really know too much about going into this whole idea. So that's a whole different world than the way I had looked at it. So I'm learning a lot still, and overcoming some of those challenges and the way things are done. It's definitely going to be a good spend of the money, is to take someone who is an expert in that field and see how they can take my product and launch it even further, because they've done it before. I went into this a little bit blind and naive, but I'm going to applaud myself for that and just toot my own horn a little bit, because I jumped in both feet and did it. So that's my big recommendation is do it.
Absolutely. Chris, first and foremost, a lot of folks have a dream and don't pull the trigger. And you did that. And look where you are today. And I love the concept of the video game and Bob being that main character. And I think you're going to have people from around the world reaching out for their bucket or for some swag from Bucket of Bread. So get ready because the floodgates will open. And Let's Chow is another great opportunity to really cross pollinate and help out the food insecurity and folks that want to be entrepreneurs and have food trucks and have big dreams. So you're doing some great work all around the country, and we appreciate you having this having mom put you in the kitchen way back in the day, and look where it's taken you and taken us. So I appreciate everything you're doing, all these irons in the fire, and you talk about always learning. So love to talk now a little bit about what do you do to sharpen your skill set as a leader in your professional life.
Well, I would say get involved is a huge, huge piece of it. You can sit behind a desk and read all of the books you can ever think of reading and just try to stuff your brain full of stuff. But for me personally, I really like to get actively involved and engaged in a conversation with the community that I'm in. Right now, I'm working with the La Crosse Area Chamber of Commerce, so I meet a lot of people. I get to hear what they have to say. There's organizations that put on these, I guess, live interactive master classes in the area. You get to meet local business people and um, the Veterans Business Outreach Centers, stuff like that, that's out there in the community. We can really be able to talk to others in the space. And those communications and those discussions really help either motivate you to do one thing or give you a spark of a twinkle of an idea to go pursue something else, take it in a different direction. I think that's the most important piece of the learning process for me is interact with everybody around you as much as you can and help each other.
Yeah, and that's a great approach as starting where you are and being able to execute the long vision plan, get with folks, get with those organizations, learn from all the things that they have to give. They really exponentially allow us to grow when we start that connection. So I'm glad that you're feeding yourself with all that knowledge and allowing that to help you grow. Now, talking about helping grow, there are a lot of emerging leaders that are listening. You had the opportunity to go in as an enlisted, even apply and get picked up for the officer side. And so you could see both worlds. So, what advice did you receive that you would like to pass on to an emerging leader today?
Listen is basically listen. And when you're listening, try to help get as much of the right information as you can, and not necessarily right, I should say. It's like get as much of the information that you can so you can make a right decision. Don't let people feel like they have to hide things from you because you can't really make an informed decision when you don't have all the bits. So create an environment that allows people to feel comfortable to give you the bits to make the decisions so that we can all move forward as a team. That's what I'd say.
I love it. I feel like Bob should also have a series about talking leadership with kids, right? So
That would be great. If there's
there's
any
enough.
animators out there, reach out.
There you go. That's an opportunity there, right? But listening folk is a great skill. It's been our number one a skill that folks that came on our podcast and our survey talk about being deficient of or need to enhance or improve. So listening is very important. So I appreciate you sharing that. Now, also talking about memorable leadership moments. I'd love to hear anyone that you have encountered or would love to share with our audience today.
Oh, I'd say um, this is a little bit of a fun story at the same time, but you have this leader who's got this position. They're supposed to do what they need to do, but they don't have all the time to get everything ready. So you're out there helping them so that they can do their moment of shining and come across in a good light. So I remember, you just have to have that willingness to help push people up. So I remember having conversations during this person's briefing via text, and I'm sending information right from an operations order, like, hey, here's this, get ready to answer this question, and things like that. So it was just fun to be able to be part of that, and then have that conversation afterwards where it was like, we hug it out. He's like, awesome, thank you. So the best thing I could say is kind of the leadership, but from the behind the scenes moment. It was a real feel good for me, a real feel good for them, and that was just something that comes to mind, is don't be afraid to lead from behind.
I love that. We've mentioned before the positional leadership, right? And the different places you could be at. It isn't always in the front. And sometimes it's in the middle, especially like if we're running cadence, right? You want to be in the middle. But there's times that you have to stay behind and provide that leadership from that standpoint. And so I'm loving that you brought that up. Now, entrepreneurship journey is a zigzag, up and down, up upside down sometimes. And so you have to implement certain strategies around moments of change and definitely challenges. So what are those for you?
I just sometimes, you're right, on that roller coaster ride, celebrate those small wins, because when you're at that top of that hill, you're like, yeah, but there's a real fast drop for whatever reason. It's like, holy cow, it's been a week and nobody's purchased a bucket, let's say. What do I do? What's going on? What I do wrong? I'm feeling in the dumps. So you got to really focus on it. I know that when I was in the military, there was a lot of focus on resiliency. So reach back, veterans, reach back onto that, grasp onto the memories from those events that you trained through. Those are going to get you through a lot of stuff. Just maintain that resiliency. That's a great skill to have taken out of the military, and I'm thankful that they started implementing that. So on that roller coaster ride, another thing is, I keep seeing things, got to take care of yourself, number one. And I totally admit failing to have done that in the beginning. I put like my 18-hour days for months straight trying to build this to a point where I can eventually step back a tiny bit. So here recently, I was like, okay, it's time to start getting back into things. So 9 times out of 10 now, I'm riding a bike to work, getting back into some energy levels, and just trying to take care of me again, because I kind of put myself to the side. And I would say it's definitely time to try to find that balance again. So don't let yourself fall into that pitfall.
Absolutely. We definitely love what you shared today. First of all, the ingredients that are in the bucket, but more importantly, the ingredients to be a great entrepreneur, great leader, a great community ambassador like you, and what you're doing with Buckets of Bread. So for folks listening in, how do they get a hold of you, Chris, or purchase a bucket of bread from you or your company?
So it's pretty easy. You just go to bucketofbread.com. And once you're at bucketofbread.com, there's a couple icons where you can just simply click those and go right into a shopping cart, or explore the area. There's tabs at the top, or on your phone, there's some tabs you can explore. There's a newsroom where you'll find this podcast posted eventually, and some others, events and things that I've participated in. There's all kinds of recipes. There's some articles, advice on baking and things like that. But really, the icons at the top for all the social media, please go out, give some thumbs, give some likes. If you know anybody who likes to eat food ever, tell them about Bucket of Bread and convince them that it's not such a bad idea, and that it really is the next best thing since sliced bread, and they should get a bucket.
I love that. And folks, we're going to make sure that all that information is part of the video and show notes for you to be able to get a hold of Chris and his product. And if you want to get a hold of us, the Leadership Void podcast, the Leadership Void at gmail.com is where you send that correspondence, anything that you would like to see on the leadership side covered by Vince and I, or if you would like to see a guest, let us know via those means and we'll consider that.
Absolutely. And today it was all about Chris. His main thing was show no fear, just do it, right? So just continue to do it as Chris has done. Buckets of Bread. We are so appreciative of all you're doing. And talk about appreciative. We're also appreciative of our sponsors. We have VEI, Triple Nickel, and FAVOB sponsoring this wonderful show. But Chris, is all about you today. Great job today. Great things you're doing. Continue with that love and that bucket, and Godspeed, brother.
Thank you both. I really appreciate you.